He's in the protocol.
And Devontae dropped out, I believe, toward the end.
Yeah, I'd say he'll be day to day.
With Zach, did he further re-aggravate it to a point where it's going to be a longer wait period?
I would say further re-aggravated. I think it was more or less, it's always hard to simulate what you're going to face in a game. And I think he just, and I mean, you'd have to ask him, but I just think that the force of the guy that he's going against, it hurt him. So he didn't feel like he could go.
So I talked to him on Friday, and he seemed to be struggling with, I need to be there for my team. They're counting on me, and I can't go out there if I'm not going to be effective. So how do you get from him feeling that way to giving him the green light, and then, I mean, like you said after the game, you can't have that happen.
Yeah, it's tough. Like I said, I just think I would chalk it up to it's hard to simulate what these guys are going to go against in the game. I mean, we did our best in terms of trying to put them through enough, and certainly had them going in practice, but still the game it's a different speed.
But you're confident there's no setback there or anything?
Correct.
I know it's apples to oranges here, but Jair in 23 had the knee injury, and it seems a struggle to get him back on the field. Is there something that has to be done about the return to play protocol, for lack of a better word, just to make sure that when a guy's ready, that he really is ready?
I think there's every situation's a little bit different. So I'm confident in our guys. I think they do a great job. They're thorough. Certainly the players got say-so into the return to play as well. And in terms of their confidence level, obviously, first and foremost, you have to be cleared medically. And we never want to put a guy out there that could potentially have a setback. So I think those guys do a really thorough job.
It has been a conservative staff kind of by nature over the years. Does that change a little bit to maybe have a players a little bit more say than typical, or?
No, I think it's been pretty consistent, at least in my time here. So,
Matt, you obviously care a lot about defense. You guys call it that. I'm just, you and Rich, what do you guys need to do?
Way to be on time, Matt.
American Airlines fault.
What do you and Rich need to do so you can get some, like you've got a really good battery that you're happy with, but then it always feels like there's another challenge that you're dealing with.
The unfortunate thing about whether, special teams in general is when there is a mistake, a lot of times they're like catastrophic mistakes. And so obviously the end of the game, that's a bad one to have happen. But all in all, I thought just in terms of I would say most of the emphasis typically when you're just talking across the league is placed on punt. And, you're doing everything you can not to get a punt blocked. I think sometimes you can take for granted the field goal block. Obviously, yesterday I think was an extreme across the league in regards to the number of blocks that happened. Bottom line with us, I think it comes down to just being disciplined and trusting your technique and what you're coached to do on a daily basis. And unfortunately, we got lifted and we played with poor pad level, and we didn't take the correct steps and just didn't perform the right technique. And so if you don't do that against a really good team that is going to rush hard, you're susceptible to having a catastrophic event occur.
From film, was there any issue with the trajectory of the kick or the timing of the operation or anything like that?
No, I thought the timing was fine. Who knows with the trajectory? There was so much push, and we also didn't do a great job on the edge. Ward came through, and I couldn't tell if he got a hand on it. We think he may have nicked it, but all in all, it wasn't good enough.
Hey Matt, with Jordan Morgan, I know you guys pride yourselves on Zach Tom and Elton being able to do a lot of different things. He's made it pretty clear he feels most comfortable at left tackle. Do you think you're spreading him too thin, or how do you
I think there's some merit to that for sure. I think especially when you look at just yesterday playing multiple spots in one game, I don't think that's easy on anybody, especially a guy that's still a relatively young player. So that's something that we've got to certainly look at.
When everyone's trying to take away Josh, how do you get the run game going? There's such a big basis of everything offensively.
Yeah, if they're going to load the box on you, you got to be able to throw the football to try to loosen them up.
So obviously you tried that yesterday. So what's obviously the protection gets nice. So now that you've had some time to sleep on it, what's the alternative?
Yeah, you got to try different things. I mean, whether it's if you're having a hard time holding up in protection, you got to do things to move the pocket. You got to throw screens. You got to do whatever you got to do if you can't hold up. And typically, like when you call a quick game or whatever, you're not anticipating getting hit or let alone give up a sack, and that happened, I think, twice yesterday. So we got to be better.
Matt, you guys talked about having a fast start in just about every game. Was it more you guys were on a slow start, or did Cleveland's defense slow you guys down more than the offense wasn't fast?
All right, well, obviously, so there was basically 3 possessions in the first half. We went 3 and out on our first possession, and I thought we had an opportunity there on the third down to potentially get a first down. The second drive, we drove down. We had a 3rd and 4. We had a false start penalty. So we ended up settling for 3. And then the third drive, we got to the 38-yard line, and then we got bludgeoned by, I think there was 3 penalties. I think there was a sack in that. And so you're not giving yourself an opportunity. I would say from my perspective, at halftime, I think, especially after going and looking at the tape, I thought it felt a lot worse than what it was, but certainly wasn't clean enough. We can't, when you put yourself in a scoring position, you can't take yourself out of it. And that's exactly what happened on the third possession. So, and it was a whole bunch of errors like that can be spread to everybody, myself included. So bottom line, we've got to be more consistent, and we got to take advantage of our opportunities when we do get in a scoring position. You got to make sure you're going forward, not backwards.
Matt, are you confident that 5 sacks yesterday is kind of one-off? Jordan just took 14 total all last year.
Yeah, there were a couple that, obviously going into the game, there was a huge emphasis on not allowing Myles Garrett to wreck the game in terms of just trying to chip him. And typically when we usually chip and then get out as a check down, where we were spending a lot of time on him, and it did not enable some of our check downs to get out. And I think that was a byproduct. I mean, those other guys feasted, and they had a good day. It's a credit to them. I knew that D-line was pretty good. Probably underestimated him to some level. Like the other guys, obviously Myles, we all know, and he's well respected across the league. But all those other guys, those interior guys, were a problem running their games. They had just had a great jump off the ball, and so we've got to look at certain things that we're asking our guys to do. And if we're not having success, then you got to find another avenue as a coach. That's my job, is to put our guys in the best position possible to go out there and compete and have success. And I obviously did not do that.
Is there something to losing a game like this earlier in the season that's like a lesson learned for you guys? And what do you take away, and how do you take that with you throughout the rest of the year?
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you that if you don't play your best, you're susceptible to getting beat. And I do think I knew it was going to be a tougher game probably than the outside world perceived, just by judging how good I thought their defense was. I mean, I watched them versus Cincinnati and Baltimore, two of, I would say, are pretty well-respected offenses in this league, and they did a pretty damn good job against them. I know the Baltimore game kind of got out of hand late, but I thought it was a stout defense. Jim Schwartz been doing it for a long time at a really high level. I've got a ton of respect for him. And those guys competed. They challenged us, and he did a good job of keeping us off balance. Never really obviously didn't get our run game going at all, and then we were having issues in the pass game as well. And so, I mean, that's a recipe for not very successful offensive football.
Yeah. Going back to the sacks, what happened at the end of the third quarter?
Yeah, that 100%'s on me. We should not even have snapped the ball in that situation. We should have taken the quarter, gotten our best short yardage play. We got on the ball and basically gave Jordan an option, and he saw man coverage and got to a man beater. I should not have even put him in that situation. And then, the second part of that is like when we do get out of the pocket there, because they got some pretty quick penetration right there, we just got to dirt the ball, throw it away, play field position. Our defense was doing such an outstanding job in that game. You just don't want to give them anything in terms of whether it's field position, and certainly we did not accomplish that offensively in the game in regards to, that was a sack. It wasn't the end of the world, but then we had a interception return to whatever, the 5-yard line, whatever it was, and just gave them an opportunity.
So speaking of the interception, two things. One, given how well your defense was playing, was it a tough decision for you to call the pass versus running it?
It's 2020.
Right.
We're trying to be aggressive and try to, thought that was our best opportunity. Obviously, didn't work out that way. Something that you can't take back. All you can do is try to learn from it and try not to make the same mistake again.
And I understand that you always take the blame for stuff. So once you've decided to make that call, whether you shouldn't have made it or not, you can beat yourself up about it. But what can Jordan do better so it doesn't end catastrophically the way it does?
Well, I always think that, one thing I always tell our quarterbacks is, if we have a bad play, don't make a bad play worse. And, I will say in his defense, the guy did a nice job. Delpit did a nice job. You can see he's in man coverage, and he fell off the route. So he did something that we did not anticipate him doing. So he made a good play.
Is that a byproduct of the rush maybe getting to him? Because it seemed like he got rid of it almost automatically really quick. When you might not have a lot of time, does that speed you? Do you feel like he got sped up?
Not necessarily. You could. I think there were situations, certainly, but that was a quick game concept. So it was one of those bang-bang plays. I think it looked like, just by his body language when he was throwing the ball, it looked like he was trying to pull it down, but it was already committed. As
far as the decision to throw, don't you have to kind of put the ball in the air there and be aggressive? You're a first down from
where? Not necessarily. Not the way our defense was playing, So I definitely don't think you have to do anything. They had one more timeout. If you ran the ball, they're probably going to burn their last time out. Maybe it's a different story.
Matt, you're an aggressive guy. I remember the Rams game last year. You tried to end it with a deep shot on the third down. So throwing on the third down, not that surprising. But what are the mechanics like before the communication's cut off? Do you give them just a call, or you just throw it away if it's not 100%? Well, what's that look like?
Well, it was a timeout, so we talked about the play. The play was the play.
The broadcast said that you had a play sheet that had 4 Myles Garrett or without Myles Garrett on the field. Is that a typical thing you should do against top guys, or is that a really rare instance because he's such a good player?
They're sharing our secrets from those production meetings there, Wallers. I think anytime you have a premier player like that, it's not like a separate play sheet, but you might have a column on your call sheet with 4 or 5 calls where you're trying to push the ball down the field a little bit more, anticipating maybe you'll get a little bit more time. And we got to a couple of those throughout the course of the game. The problem is, one of the times they did a good job and they brought pressure, which I kind of anticipated that, you take a great rusher off the field, they're going to try other avenues to potentially generate pressure. So they had a good call. They didn't get a sack or anything like that. We actually got a 3-yard completion to Tucker, but I would say it was less than a premier look for the play.
Now, I understand, it sucks that the game went the way it did yesterday for you, but it's not like you still don't have a really good football team. So I'm just curious, what good does come from this? Like, how do you take this and use it in a way that it actually has value instead of just being pissed that you didn't play well?
Well, I just think this league is such a week-to-week league, and you can never lose sight of that. And you can't take any moment, any game for granted. And the goal, and I've said it a million times to you guys, I don't think I've obviously said it enough to our team, the goal is to go 1-0 every week. And it pisses me off when we start talking about things outside of the next game, things that are way down the road. Like, focus on, keep the focus on the present, on the now, and worry about getting better each and every day.
You had
Two more. Speaking of Tucker, what does it say about him to still go out in the game and play just the way he did, and how is he feeling coming off of the game?
Yeah, I think it says a lot about him just in terms of the competitor that he is. So yeah, I think he's feeling good.
What do you attribute the false starts to? I mean, it hasn't been a big problem at all for you over the years, and I think you had 5 yesterday.
Yeah, I've seen it. I mean, it's been happening more than we'd like. You see it in practice. It's hard not to expect it in a game. So we have got to dial in better. We have to have better focus and concentration, and some of those are brutal. We had 2 on 3rd down. One was on that 3rd and 4. We had one on the short yardage situation when we tried to bring Tuck in there and run the quarterback sneak. I mean, 3rd and 1, you can't have that. The other one was a 3rd and 10 late in the game, right, when we're trying to set up for a field goal. That pushed us back 5 yards. Yeah, you can't have them. Those are killer penalties. Another one was on a 2nd and 1, now 2nd and 1, 2nd and 6. I'm trying to think of the last one, but anyways, yeah, you can't have them because they are killer. And and then conversely, on the defensive side, we had a bunch of penalties on 3rd down that extended drives. Some of those were in one. I remember one specifically, 3rd and 9, had another 3rd and goal. They didn't kill us in those situations. We ended up overcoming them and moving them back, and they ended up settling for a field goal. But we have got to be better just with our details, our fundamentals, and then utilizing the techniques that we practice on a daily basis.
Amen. As someone, I'm sure there was a bet or something on that. As someone who can start talking and then keep talking, as you've experienced from listening to these questions, I don't think Sheed was planning on making a proclamation that you guys would go undefeated. I think he kind of got riffing a little bit.
No, I know. But I think it's always a good reminder, like, hey guys, like, pump the brakes on everything. We're just trying to win one game at a time, and like, if you're thinking or have your sights set on anything outside of that, I think you're focused on the wrong things. Like, we got to be focused on trying to get better. Obviously today, the focus is on, first of all, being honest about the tape and what the tape says, and then learning from that, and then it's moving on.
So that's a teachable moment for, he's probably not going to talk to us the rest of the year, but is that a teachable moment for all your guys that you're using specifically?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of teachable moments certainly when you win, and obviously you better learn from when you have some failure. Otherwise, you'll never get better.